what are the biggest challenges which the team faces while deploying a new solution?
What I believe is that the win situation comes for an organization जब एक ही pace पे everyone is working on the same phase.
With those challenges in mind, what is exactly the BuildPiper? Can you explain once more?
So BuildPiper, what I believe is a smart platform from day zero.
What makes the BuildPiper unique, or what are the challenges which were
BuildPiper from day zero out of the box is solving those modern chaos of the complete SDLC or the application delivery lifecycle, right?
This is the change which they have seen after adopting BuildPiper.
And from day zero itself, they started onboarding their services.
Welcome back to another episode of Techie Talks with Kuldeep. I am your host Kuldeep Singh. Today we are excited to have a new perspective. This time we are sharing a product called BuildPiper created by OpsTree Labs. To introduce what is the BuildPiper, who can use it, what are some of the success story, we do have Mr. Deepak Gupta with us. Deepak, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kuldeep.
Before we start the conversation about BuildPiper, could you share about your experiences in the industry?
Definitely, Kuldeep. Thank you for framing this question. I'll start with my introduction first. So if I tell how did I started my journey in this field, right? So if I talk about my background, I did my graduation in mechanical stream, right?
Okay.
And I got placed in the mechanical engineering company as well, named as Mahale, which was situated in Madhya Pradesh, Indore. What I found in that field was that I wasn't getting the tools and technologies where I can experience or where I can explore much more in that respective field, right? And that is which pulled out me from that respective field. And I landed back into the IT field where I believe that I can get all those opportunities which would help me to excel and grow in my career, right? And the very first job which I got was in HCL Technologies for a NOC specialist, right? So, and that was my very first introduction to the kind of infrastructure, or let's say you can talk about the kind of applications or web services which a general consumer use in the market, right? So I got to know that how does these infrastructure runs, or what is the scale these applications are able to handle of consumers, right? And that was my very first click point, that I want to go into deep dive of all these technologies and learn how to manage all that. And that is where I got introduced to the Ninja program of OpsTree Solutions, formerly known as my Gurukulam, right? And that kickstarted my journey into the DevOps, right? And yep, here I am completing my absolutely 5 years in OpsTree Solutions and helping BuildPiper to grow in the market, leading the complete implementation across multiple clients, be it edtech, be it fintech, or your e-commerce platform. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
So Deepak, before we talk about the solution space, what are the biggest challenges which the team faces while deploying a new solution?
Definitely, Kuldeep. I'll happy to answer that question because we have been working across this space for a few period of time and across multiple categories as well, be it edtech, fintech, or an e-commerce platform. So if I take a basic example, right, I'll talk about an e-commerce application or a platform. Definitely you have multiple verticals in that product, right? Aapka payment gateway hoga, you'll be having your inventory, you'll be having your cart, right? So, and definitely all these, and in today's time, we have a concept of microservice in nature, right?
Exactly.
We don't build monolith, we build microservice so that every other team can work independently, right? So, koi backend mein Java use kar raha hai, one is using Golang, another one is using Nodes. But major challenge start from day zero itself, right? Once the application code is ready on to the developer's table end, right? Post that, अब उस application को run करने के लिए the very first thing comes is the underhood infrastructure, which would be running your application workload. So the very first option, that what hit we should take, right? Well, if we are in the status of that right away, we can jump into any of the container services, or the buzzword which we listen in today's time, that is Kubernetes, right? Or are we ready to right away jump into a Kubernetes service or a managed service to adopt with? Or are we still in the nature that should we start with the VM based setup first and then we can finalize as per our scale that where we have to grow out, right? Second comes the CI/CD practices, right? Definitely, if you are a application, a market ready product, definitely you have to follow a build and release life cycle, right? Which would help you out in terms of releasing your product faster to the market, right? So वहाँ बहुत challenges बनते हैं teams को, that as I mentioned, right, हर vertical team अपने respective tech stack पे काम कर रहा है, what the process they are following, right? अपने respective tech stack को लेके everyone is thinking about their win-win situation, right? But what I believe is that the win situation comes for an organization जब एक ही pace पे everyone is working on a same phase, सब collaboratively काम कर रहे हैं, and everyone is following a standard process, right, across. Taking an example, right, as I mentioned that my family comes from a business background, right, and that too in hospitality, right? So let's say if I want to grow that business in the market, what the very first option could be to bring out the franchisee for that, right? And what I'll firstly create is to grow in the market with the consistency and the quality which I can deliver to the consumers, right? So for that, I'll be definitely creating those standard procedures, right? So the SOPs which can be handed over to the respective folks of their present situation, real-time present situation, and that's where they can take that legacy forward, right? So similarly, वो IT में भी होता है कि अगर आप if you want to work in a similar standardized process, आपके पास वो एक standardization define होना चाहिए, workflows होने चाहिए, templates होने चाहिए, so that you can bring that sustainability, reliability, and make your product deliver to market in a faster pace. So these are the challenges. Another और उसी को better करने के लिए मतलब we have seen that in the phase of running all those patterns, people burn out their developers, right? Engineering productivity काफ़ी lose out होती है, उसमें आपका definition define नहीं है कि कितना fastly हम कर सकते हैं, release cycles काफ़ी delay हो जाती हैं. At the time where market is growing and competition is growing, you have to be on your tip of your toes, right? आपको हर week में, I believe, even I have tackled so many clients which are releasing their day to day on the basis of, right? आप अगर कोई भी e-commerce Myntra ले लीजिए, you take Paytm, right? You always see a beta phase up and available running in the market for some sort of people, right? So to bring these things, these are the major challenges which we see in today's market.
And also the learning curve, because
if
your tooling is not standardized, you need to keep learning all those.
Definitely.
And also with this security and governance also becomes more complicated, because as your tool set is not standardized, you need to have the different framework to handle all those concerns.
Definitely, and following, as you mentioned, right, in the market we have different categories of products available, right, and every have their own respective compliance which has to be followed out, right? Let's say if we talk about that any health tech vertical, then definitely they have to follow a HIPAA compliance, or let's say if I talk about any fintech based client, they have to follow a PCI DSS based compliance setup, right? So everything is there, right? So the people just have to be on tip of their toes, and they have to follow those processes so that they can overcome all those challenges.
Yeah. No, definitely I do agree, and because DevOps was meant to increase the deployment frequency so that we can release it faster.
Definitely.
And I do fully agree with those challenges. So yes, with those challenges in mind, what is exactly the BuildPiper? Can you explain once more?
Sure. So BuildPiper, what I'll do, I'll right away, starting from those bookish theory or definition, I'll talk in a more realistic manner, right? So there are multiple tools in the market, right? So every other tool which is available in the market is to be enable you in the ecosystem, right?
Agree.
Right, but the thing comes back to the hand of engineers or the respective members who are working across that tool, right? That how smart are you to adopt it and to make a better fit in your respective ecosystem, right? How you can do that. But definitely to do that requires those efforts, right? It would require those configurations. You have to work upon that, right? And on other hand, BuildPiper, right? So BuildPiper, what I believe is a smart platform from day zero itself, right? So whatever challenges which we talked about in a very first portion of our talk, right, that the people are facing, right? So BuildPiper is something which can cater all those at the very first day itself, right? From day zero, we start solving about those standardization across, right? Let's say you want to standardize the complete process across your application tech stacks, or let's say across all your verticals, right? So that is something which we are solving. Second, if you talk about self-service, right? Self-capabilities which we can deliver back to the hand of each and everyone in the ecosystem, right? If you talk about your devs, you talk about your QAs, you talk about your DevOps, can they be self-enabled, right? From day zero itself to manage their deployments for their respective environments. Yep, that is what we do. Then definitely your team is not just about dev, QA or DevOps, right? You have your business leaders too, right? Which they want to see the overall picture of the application or the product. How is it working, right? Be it in terms of your code quality, be it in terms of your deployment frequency. Generally we call it as DORA metrics for now, right? So everyone have to be on that visibility so that they can govern the complete SDLC life cycle of their product, right? And that is BuildPiper completely fits into the picture, right? So from day zero, or let's say from starting from your dev to your business leaders or your stakeholders in the organization, have a complete visibility from the platform, right? So basically, if I come to the definition of the BuildPiper is something which is solving all those modern chaos of DevSecOps life cycles for the application enterprise delivery. So yeah,
so you are easing out the life of the developer as well as the QA as well as the operator, and also providing the visibility to the entire organization to see how the frequency of the the application deployments are happening, if there are any breakage happening, where are those, so that you can tackle the specific challenge.
For sure, yeah, definitely.
Okay, but tell me one more thing, Deepak. I hear there are so many solutions in the market, starting it from so many open sources, some are build specific. What makes the BuildPiper unique, or what are the challenges which were not solved earlier, which you solved with the BuildPiper?
Great, absolutely. I can start this in a manner, let's say, definitely. So we have multiple tools in the market available, right? And bigger startups and SMEs also try to make their own products as well in-house, right? But is it a good approach? Definitely. For any of these companies, it's a good approach that you are building your own product in-house, right? But if I talk about the sustainability of that product, is it at a very good amount? Let's say, take an example, and why I'm telling that, we have dealt with some of those clients which were in the phase or which made their own in-house product, right? And now it is in the bin, lying down, and they are looking outside for the enterprise tool which can support them across their application verticals, right? So you can definitely create your own product in-house, right? But what happens is, generally, let's say whatever engineering team which started working on that, right? And let's say they make it up to the marks which can serve the purpose internally, right? But what if that complete engineering team left the organization, right? And now your new engineering team is getting assigned. And what happens? Again, you are back to square one. You are not aware about the product, how was the business logic built behind that, how it was working internally. And that is where it goes into the bin, and then you start looking out, or either you start building once again, right? So back to square one or day zero. Similarly, about open source tools as well, definitely we can opt for open source tools, and we can start integrating in our existing workflows, and we can take a benefit out of it, right? But what if we want to build something for our own custom logic, right? Or let's say we want to create something for our respective use cases, right? Now, what you have to depend upon, either you'll depend on back to community, or either you yourself put that effort in creating those plugins, or let's say those custom scripts to be created. And I believe that is where BuildPiper stands out, right? And as I mentioned as well in the beginning, that BuildPiper from day zero out of the box is solving those modern chaos of the complete SDLC or the application delivery lifecycle, right? So BuildPiper gives you that freedom of one-click onboarding, right? You talk about you want DevSecOps, extensive DevSecOps in your workflows, right? We have those available ready from day zero, right? You talk about security and compliance, 100%, that is available. You talk about that either my dev would be able to debug or troubleshoot their deployments for their respective environments on their own. Yep, that is available. Either they have to rely back to DevOps team or the infra team. No, they are pretty much able to debug all those parameters. Let's say they want to go into the nitty-gritties of understand the underlying infrastructure for that. No, because the platform have that guided UI approach, which makes them easy to fill out those details in a very declarative manner, right? So that's what I believe that BuildPiper stand out apart or besides all those tools which are available in the market.
So I assume you are saying like, hey, it gives you the feasibility to deploy the apps quickly.
Yep.
It also gives you the visibility, how those apps are doing.
Working.
The third thing is also it gives you the security control.
Yep.
For example, the compliance, etc., which as an industry you need to follow how you are doing with that.
Yep.
And the fourth and most important, it allows you to measure how frequently you are deploying and what are if those deployments are happening successfully or if those are getting failed.
Yeah, definitely.
So all those things
are taken care by BuildPiper.
Able to handle. Yeah. That's a very unique value proposition.
Definitely.
So Deepak, one perspective which I wanted to hear is more from the client perspective.
Definitely.
I know you have listed a couple of clients are already using it, but what did they share that, hey, this is something, the frequency, etc., which were looking like earlier, and this is the change which they have seen after adopting BuildPiper?
Yep, definitely. So I'll start with one of our biggest telecom operator in India, right? We won't name it, but yep. So they lack in the governance or a complete audit-based pipeline for their production-based deployments, right? And they didn't have a complete audit for that. They used to do it manually. They have to update back into their ticketing tools that what release have to be happened, right? And how are they proceeding with the deployment? Are they completely perfect? Is there a complete observability available for those that, let's say, and majorly in today's time, what we have seen is people don't go in a big bang fashion, right? For a production based, a canary based approach or a and B testing based approach where they can roll out their workloads in a partial manner to the consumers, right? And once they get the full confidence or the kind of response which they want with that respect feature, then they roll it out to the 100%, right? So that was something which they were lacking in, and BuildPiper out of the box, because it has a good integration with all ticketing tools available in the market, mostly your Jira, or let's say you can talk about ServiceNow. So we created a complete end-to-end pipeline for them, definitely with their collaboration. We understood their target approach, that this is something which they are looking for, and that is something which we mapped back to BuildPiper, right? That how it's gonna look like on BuildPiper. So one of the topmost feature of our platform, right, that is release package, basically where a respective stakeholder or a team can club all their multiple services or features, dependent features, and can be delivered back to the production environment altogether with all those checks available in place, with all those manual approvals in place, which would help coming from those respective stakeholders, and a complete audit visibility available onto the platform. So on a click of a button, yep, you are good to go on production environment. So this was the very first scenario. Second, I talk about one of the wealth management portal, right? It's a Mumbai-based organization. So they were in the state of modernizing their complete infrastructure, right? So they were somewhere lacking in terms of the adoption of latest technologies, right? So they were microservice ready, but they didn't know the approach that how we can make our migration or modernization as quickly as possible, because they were about to launch in the market. And they had a very big consumer base because they are wealth management portal, and they are also integrating with the banks for their payment gateways integration, right? So they wanted to launch it quickly, right? So we had a tight timeline as well in that. I believe that was around 6 to 8 weeks in which we had to migrate their complete VM based workload to a container based workload, and that recommendation came from our side, right? And that is where BuildPiper helped them a lot, because in their existing infrastructure, they had multiple technology stacks, right? And as I mentioned, right, so BuildPiper from day zero itself have all those industry standard blueprint templates available for all your technology stack, right? And from day zero itself, they started onboarding their services. We help them in Dockerizing their services, containerize them, run on Kubernetes, AWS managed service EKS, right? And yep, post 8 weeks, they were happily able to run their production workload and ready to deliver into the market. So this was our great journey, and a big win for them as well, and for a complete organization. So yep, these are the major clients' perspective, which we have seen personally, and helping all those in leading their what I'd say, in leading their journey to get ready for the market. Yeah.
So you are saying that your clients are across, like in small as well as medium,
bigger enterprises,
as well as, the bigger enterprises as well. So roughly, if we talk about how many customer do you have roughly?
Roughly around we have reached the mark of 25 plus clients for now.
So 25 plus is a huge milestone. It shows you the range of the clients which you are covering, and definitely a good market perspective.
Yeah.
Like let's say I wanted to be your 26th client or maybe 30th client by the time we decide to use BuildPiper. What are some of the metrics which I can be sure will be improved if I start using it?
So the very first metric would be definitely in today's market, it is all about shift left approach, right? So previously people used to think of security about as a last phase of their life cycle, right? But the very first day from the platform, what you get can get is that your security comes or starts from day zero itself, right? So if you talk about building your code, or let's say if you want to deploy your infrastructure, which would be compliant based, so from day zero, first thing you will be getting is that metric, right? Your extensive DevSecOps based infrastructure pipelines or your application delivery pipelines. Second would be definitely your team members would be getting self-enabled, right? As you mentioned, right? So they would be able to manage their own respective deployments. And along with that, even let's say you have a growing market and you want to test out multiple features parallelly, right? And that is where BuildPiper also, and that is our most beautiful feature of the latest one, that is the ephemeral environments creation on the fly, right? Your developer can put a request of creating an ephemeral environment for their respective feature testing, and once they are done, they can tear up that environment to save the cost as well, right? So second could be that your on the fly creation of environments. And third, you can categorically set that you're definitely, you as a leader would have to have a look on the insights of how your product is behaving, right? So that kind of visibility right away you can get on the product, be it about your code quality, be it about your deployment frequency in the form of DORA metrics, right? Then you can have your deployment insights, that how your applications are behaving, and then service level visibility. So these majorly features you can right away adopt from the platform.
So you are saying like, hey, if I adopt this, definitely the deployment frequency will be increased. Second thing is my developers would be happy because this is something where they are focused more on releasing new thing. They are able to get the environment very quickly.
Definitely.
And the third is something I will be able to maintain the reliability of those features.
Definitely. So your dev would be morely focused on delivering values instead of wrestling with multiple tools.
Yeah. And you are also saying that it will also help me in improving my security posture as well.
Yeah. So security posture could be in terms of, let's say, if I talk about in your build cycle, you want that if your developers are working on a piece of code, right? So by mistakenly, they shouldn't be committing any of the secrets, right? Or the API keys, which shouldn't be right away available in your application code, right? So on the very first step, using a tool for that, we inspect all those changes, right? In your day-to-day commits, right? And we highlight those and send those right away to the stakeholders, so that can be prevented, right? And we don't do it proactively, we do it preventively as well, right? So that on the day first, you can work on that and minimize or cut down all those parameters, right? Then talking about your code quality part, right? Be it your any enterprise tool which you use, or let's say open source tool you use, we have the plugin support for that readily available, right? So you are in a phase of defining or designing your code piece of quality as well. And postly in terms of deployment, that deployment visibility, definitely, right? We right away don't mark that deployment once, let's say your manifest or let's say your application artifacts are right away applied to the infrastructure, doesn't mark your application as success deployment, right? It has to be consumer ready, right? And that is where our platform waits for those deployments to be successful, considering that are your health probes successfully getting passed for those application endpoints, right? Is it ready to serve the traffic? So this is where we mark those deployments as successful, and that is a very great visibility which comes to any end user who is managing or working on their day-to-day operations of the product, right? So this is where we're going to help you out, definitely.
And I'm assuming you are also supporting the deployment on the Kubernetes as part of it.
Yep.
So if I do have a microservice architecture and I do have the packaging in terms of like the Docker or the another container runtime, I can easily deploy it.
Definitely. And that is once again a major beauty of the product, that firstly, you don't have to go into the complexities of learning all those Kubernetes manifest files, or let's say understand that how does Kubernetes works. A very basic could be for a user that what I know to run my application is that does my repository reside, right? Then what all parameters has to be provided to run my application workload. A basic could be your resource constraint, right? That is something which we require from your end, right? And apart from that, BuildPiper takes care of everything, creating those templates, creating those manifests automatically and applying it to the right away infrastructure. Everything is done by BuildPiper.
And does it also support like the GitOps methodology as well?
Yep, definitely. So and that is something which has become a trend as well in the market, right?
Yeah.
Definitely, you don't want every other time go to the platform, clicking on build and deploy icons, manually triggering every other time, right? We want that on the basis of whatever mechanism, a PR mechanism, or on your daily basis commits of your lower environment, you want an automatic triggers to be triggered for your build and release lifecycle for lower environments, and that is something which is already available on the platform, and that too on a single click of a button. Even no involvement of a DevOps or a project admin is required to configure that. Easily a dev, or even I won't say a dev, even a non-tech guy who wants just right away launch through the platform, if he is aware about the UI portion, right away on the click of a button, he or she can configure a GitOps.
Okay. So Deepak, looks like this platform is helping me in the abstraction too many things. I no need to know each and every detail of the tooling, what is underneath it is using.
Yeah.
And like, let's say I am now very excited about using the BuildPiper. How does the implementation looks like? So for example, if tomorrow we want to onboard BuildPiper, how we can do that?
So implementation is pretty easy for the platform. Being into the DevSecOps field for a past decade, definitely we know how to automate things quickly, right? And how to onboard things quickly with a minimal time frame. And that is where OpsTree Solutions, I believe, is a champion in that we can do it in hardly in minutes, right? So for our platform, basically the platform is a hosted solution, right? So we set up our platform into the client ecosystem, right? So one is that if let's say client is dealing right away with us, we come into the place and we set it up in their respective ecosystem, be it cloud, be it LDC, right? And for that, we have a streamline process automation scripts available, which helps us to set up the BuildPiper components hardly in 10 to 15 minutes, right? And let's say if any of the consumer or a client wants to set it up onto any of the cloud, right? If they are using any of the public cloud available, be it AWS, be it Azure, we have our marketplace images readily available onto those platforms as well. Right away, on a click of a button, they can right away launch a BuildPiper instance, and they can right away start using that platform. So yeah.
So you are supporting the infrastructure as a service model as well, and the platform
as a service as well. Yeah.
As well. Okay. And in terms of the recent features have been added, which are good. But what is the roadmap looks like? Is this something you are adding, keep adding the feature new, and it is part of the active development?
Yeah.
How is that like?
So, because the IT tech industry is the ever evolving industry, right? We keep on hearing every year a new buzzword, right? For a few years back, I think that Kubernetes was a buzzword, right? Everyone were moving from a VM-based approach to a Kubernetes-based approach, and in today's time we hear about artificial intelligence a lot, right? And on top of that, AI has become an icing on the cake, right? Gen AI has become basically the icing on the cake, right? And that is where, the roadmap for BuildPiper also looks exciting. We are making it one more step smarter. So AI, the agentic AI part, integrating it with MCP servers, right? That is something which we have already released as well in the market. For a consumer, it would bring more easiness or more quicker decision making in terms of how their system is performing right away with the help of AI driven natural language conversation which you can make with those MCP servers, and it would list out proactively all the issues which you have or the success rate of your deployments on a click of a button. That is something which we have already worked and delivered into the market. Second, we are working on end-to-end database management too. So basically, multiple people still in the market relies on either on the managed services of databases, or let's say if they are self-managing it, then definitely a huge chunk of piece of code, or they have to work upon those nightly. So that is something which we gonna manage from their part, right? So end-to-end complete database management. If you have your schemas versioned in the version control system, and we are good to go. That in a click of a button, you select the respective versions of the target environment, and then you are good to go. Then multiple more, right? So as I mentioned, right? So IT industry are ever evolving industry, and with that we are evolving our product as well.
So Deepak, these are definitely the exciting features. Out of these, what are the key features which you are excited about?
Definitely. So as listing out all those features or the upcoming roadmap for a BuildPiper, right? The very first feature I am very deeply interested in and have that inquisitiveness to work more on that would be the AI driven based engineering, right? Using those MCP servers or the agentic AI method, right? And how does it gonna help in the market as well? As I mentioned, right, that definitely you have issues in your end-to-end life cycle, right? Either it could be in the build section, either it could be in deployment section, either it could be in terms of the complete overall maturity you want to have a look for, right? But can I make it more easy in terms of to consume that data right away on a click of a button? Yep, that is something which we're going to solve it via agentic AI or a MCP server setup, right? Where in a very natural human readable language or a format, you can right away ask those phrases with those agentic AIs, where it would right away source all that data from the platform which is running in your ecosystem and would picturize all that data to be for a consumer ready, right? So that is something which is going to help you out, definitely the very most. Second is the end-to-end database management, right? Which is where we talk about if you have your schemas listed or version in your version control system, right? Then definitely all those updates can be taken care by the platform itself, either using open source Liquibase container out of it, which would help you to provision or upgrade those changes right away, right? So you don't have to worry about all those before your deployment into the production lifecycle, right? And third would be that, as you mentioned, right, right now the platform is available in the support of hosted solution, right, as an infrastructure as a service or as a platform as a service via using the marketplace of public clouds available. We are also in the phase of launching the SaaS solution of our product, right? So that let's say there are multiple clients or the organization in the market or the smaller SMEs you can consider, which don't have time to invest in setting up the infrastructure or right away setting up or using it as a platform as a service, right? So for them, they can right away send a request and we'll be spinning up an instance from our side, and yep, they are good to use for that, for their application delivery. Yeah.
No, definitely, and it sounds like, for example, the SaaS option might be the one which the users are most interested.
Yep.
And also the database part, because for example till now the people are mainly focusing in the microservices as a stateless, and they are managing the state somewhere else. And if as a platform you can provide them the help, hey, this is how you can manage your state with the stateful services, for example how you described the DB part. So this is definitely going to
help you.
And the third and most important is the agentic AI, right? For example, with the MCP setup, because so far we also don't know what are the use case we are going to solve, but this is going to set up as a platform. Hey, it is available, and for example now through the natural queries, etc., maintaining the context with through other agents platform, how you can access the BuildPiper are the really great.
Definitely, all those data sources.
Okay, this is very interesting. Also, what are some of the sign for a company to know, hey, is this something BuildPiper could be a good use for me? What are some of the sign or the problematic which I should be seeing in my ecosystem?
Sure. And I think I'm keenly interested as well in answering this question, right? And why I'm saying this, because I personally, what I believe, because I have learned a lot from the community itself, and what I believe is that whatever learning which I am making, can I deliver it back to the community, right? And when I meet these people in the community, right, I got to hear very problem scenarios in their existing ecosystem, right? Some talk about their engineering productivity, some talk about their developer burnout, right? Some says that they are not able to release their product faster into the market, right? And they don't have a compliant based setup, they are lacking in security. Every other day they found out they are finding malware in their infrastructure, right? Malware attack in their infrastructure, right? So these problem scenarios is definitely, they persist in the market, and yep, we are here to solve those issues right away from day zero itself. So I believe these are the key signs or the patterns which if you are seeing in your organization, then you are just one click away to adopt BuildPiper in your ecosystem.
Okay, so you are saying if I am struggling with not able to deploy frequently, if I am not able to maintain those deployment also very frequently, if I am facing some challenges in maintaining the security posture, this is where the BuildPiper can
help you out. Yeah, definitely.
All right, looks amazing. Thanks a lot, Deepak, for sharing this information with us. I hope BuildPiper would be helpful for the organization in increasing their deployment frequency, maintaining their release cycle, also maintain their reliability and the security posture.
Thank you, Kuldeep.
That's it for this episode of Techie Talks with Kuldeep. I hope now you have deep understanding about BuildPiper. More details are in the description. Go through them. Thanks for watching this.